All right. Now, obviously, you have the physical copy in front of you. There's a graph. I'll send you an email later with this copy, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. What we're going to be doing over the next couple days here, and remember, today is just an intro day. We're not doing any homework or anything like that today. We're just going to intro this. We're going to be finding distance between cities. Okay, kind of old school way. Doing it using a map, an atlas, some type of ruler. We'll eventually do this on an actual real map. I'm going to bring out those Iowa maps again. We'll figure out real distances to places. But this is going to be our kind of our intro, where I want to show you major cities. So obviously you can see the whole continental U.S. here. I know it's got Alaska and Hawaii off in the corner. Those are not the correct locations if you understand a globe. But I'll avoid those because those won't apply here. But if we pick two cities, like for instance, if we pick Des Moines, Iowa here, and we pick, let's say like Boulder, Colorado, and we're gonna find this distance between the two, okay? You could use a ruler and the scale in the corner of your map, a key, a legend. Now, I'm not gonna have you use the legend on this one. The reason why is I printed it, and it's probably not perfectly to scale, so sorry, it's a copy of a copy, so it's not gonna be the greatest. So we're gonna find the distance from Boulder to Des Moines. Now, the scale we're gonna use for today, this is one I'd like you to write down, 2,400 miles is going to be 19 centimeters. 2,400 miles is 19 centimeters. Now that is very different than the scale in the corner. So now, since I said we're doing centimeters, on your ruler, does everyone have that physical ruler in front of you? You have to use the side with the centimeters. The sides with the centimeters count up to, I think, 35. It's the small one. Not the one that counts up to 12. It's the one that goes to 35. Now, the beauty of doing why I choose the metric system is because if you land on any hash mark past, a nice major number, that's the decimal you're at. So if you're using that ruler, okay, using the ruler and you're measuring and this is 0, you don't actually start on the end, by the way. 0 is kind of indented in a little bit. So you line up 0 with whatever city and you measure, and let's say you get past the number 5, okay, and you're just a few hash marks past it. Let's say that's where you're at. Well, if that's where you're at, then you're at 5.3 centimeters. That's the beauty of doing the metric system. I need you to measure Boulder to Des Moines, Iowa, using a ruler, and tell me exactly how many centimeters it is down to the decimal point. Okay, say it again.
4.9.
4.9? Okay. So this is 4.9. So you didn't quite make it to 5 centimeters. It was just shy of it, right? 4.9, is that correct? Is that what everyone's getting? 4.9?
I'm getting 5.
I got 5.
I got 5.
You getting 5?
I'm getting 5.
Okay, 5. All right, that's fine. We'll go with 5. I don't mind. So it's a nice clean 5. Okay, nice. Okay, so Des Moines to Boulder was a nice clean 5. So you don't even have a decimal, so that's really nice. You just have 5.0, right? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use this idea of proportions, proportionality. This helps you with straight lines. We are doing a straight line distance between two towns as a crow flies. So this is like an airline distance. This isn't curvature of the earth. I'll explain that concept next week. That's a Monday topic for us. Here's what you do. Do you know the scale that I gave you off to the side here? You need to write that over here. 2,400 miles. And below it, you're going to put the 19 centimeters. That was the scale we're going to use for every question today. Okay? And since you guys just measured Boulder, Colorado to Des Moines, that was 5 centimeters, right? You're going to put the 5 centimeters down here. Why do we put the centimeters on the bottom? Yeah. So the real miles can land on the top. It has to be the same as the scale I gave you. So on my scale, this is the scale I provided you, the centimeters are on the bottom, the real miles are on the top. This is going to be real distance. Now, how you actually solve this problem, this is where your calculator comes into play. You always start with a number above or below the x. So in my case, I'm going below x. You're going to cross multiply. So that means you're going to multiply diagonally. You're going to multiply on the 2,400. Then when you loop around, you're going to divide by the bottom number and end up with where your x is. So you're taking 5 times the 2,400, and then whatever that answer is, you're going to divide by 19. It should, I always look at this as, it looks like a goldfish. I know that seems really weird. Looks like a little beta fish when you get done. It's cross, multiply, and divide. I know it seems silly, it's just every kid always kind of remembers that. You cross, multiply, and divide, you loop around. What number are we getting?
631.57.
0.57? And that's in miles. So it's 600 miles roughly. This is again, we're ballparking here. It's 600 miles to Boulder, Colorado. So now, why that's important? Now you know how much gas you should buy. If you think back to the last chapter test we did, well, we talked about how to find mileage and how to find fuel economy and how to pay for gas. Well, now you can figure out the cost. Maybe you're getting 20 miles per gallon. So if you're getting 20 miles per gallon, you could divide by miles per gallon. It tells you how many gallons of gas you're going to be buying. You could figure out cost if you know what the cost of gas is per state that you're traveling through. These are like little things you need to think about. If you're going on vacation, maybe it's just cheaper to buy an airline ticket. Probably not at this time during the year, but it could actually be cheaper depending on what the fuel prices are. That's something to consider if you're traveling to some place. But does everyone understand the concept we just did there? Okay, now this scale isn't going to change. We're going to use this. Now, every map does have a scale in the corner. If you can actually see the scale, I believe that is what? Is that 800 miles in the corner? What is that number? 300? Yeah, so if you measured this, you could also do that. So that's going from the beginning to the end for 300 miles. You could measure that. That's what you're actually supposed to do when you look at a map. You're supposed to take your ruler, put it up to right here, and actually measure what that is, and figure out how many centimeters that is, or inches, depending on what you're measuring in. And then that's the scale you use. But I just gave you 2,400 miles is 19 centimeters. So that's probably more accurate than the one that they provided, because it was a copy of the copy, and I don't know if it's correct. So I know everything would be shrunk to that size, but I'll just give you something else a little more accurate for your map. Okay, here's what I like you to do. I like you to measure the distance between Miami, Florida, and Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. If you don't know where Washington, D.C. is, it's right above Florida. It's not Washington State. The capital of the country is above Florida. It's right in the middle. It's right in Maryland. It's in the District of Columbia, which is a non-provincial state. So it's right above. So you're going from Miami up to Washington, D.C. It's the stars, that black dot. Here's the distance you're measuring. Okay, measure it in centimeters. Measure it in centimeters. Line up 0 with one of them. I don't care which one. Line up 0, and then count up. I want to know what it is in centimeters, please. Okay, those markers just keep falling off.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, what are we getting?
7.4.
7.4? Yeah, I'll go with that. So, okay, so we're getting 7.4 centimeters. Okay, and our scale is 19 centimeters is 2,400 miles. Okay. All right. So, we measured it. Okay, we've got the 7.4. Now, what do we do next to solve for x?
Divide, multiply, and divide.
Cross, multiply, and divide, right? Make your little goldfish. 7.4 times the 2,400. Divide by the 19. Cross, multiply, and divide. Always start with the number above or below x. Cross, multiply diagonally, and then divide by the last number. And that should give me my mileage.
934.783.
934.783?
73.
73, yeah. 73, 73. There you go. Like that. 900 miles. I'm ballparking. It's about 900 miles. Okay? Now you can figure out, maybe you're doing a trip there. So you're trying to figure out, okay, is it cheaper buying an airline ticket? Is it cheaper buying fuel? You can look at the states if you use that fuel economy or that AAA fuel prices like we did online, that last chapter when we did in vehicles. You can figure out the trip you're taking. Now, obviously, I can't just drive from Washington down to Miami straight. Do you agree with that? If you look at my little line there? You'll have to go a longer distance, because now that you're not going a straight line distance, because you're going out in the ocean, you will have to follow the curvature of the land. So you will be driving a further distance, because you have to go kind of diagonally and loop around. That is a further distance than the straight line shot. So that's why I'm saying, like, you're roughly at 900 miles. It's probably a lot more. So that's where Google comes into play, and Google starts to map out, walking distances, bus, starts to figure out, roads and tolls and all that, and they try to find the shortest distance. That's something we haven't even talked about. There is tolls when you start to go into certain states. Like when you go into Chicago area, you have to pay a toll. When you go into New York City, there's tolls a lot of places, and you're going to be paying a lot of money to go through just to get from one destination to another. So that's something you need to be considering. If you're traveling, you better have a bag full of change in your car, because if you're going from state to state, you may not realize there's a toll booth that you have to go through and pay a couple bucks to get into the state. So I was lucky. We don't charge tolls because we raised our taxes enough in the state that it pays for the road constructions we do. And they do a nice job. I think we have pretty nice roads in the state of Iowa. They do a pretty good job of updating it. If you've ever driven through Ohio, you'll break your axle on your car driving through Ohio, because they just don't repair their roads at all. Same with Michigan. Michigan, I don't think they've ever replaced a road in Michigan. But agreed. If you go through certain cities in the US, they're always doing road construction. Ames is always under construction. Des Moines always has some construction. Iowa City, Waterloo, because there's so much population that they constantly have to update the road. If you think about this, Highway 18 for us, there's a lot of traffic on 18. They have to replace it every 5 or 6 years. And so it seems like they're always doing construction to people that don't live in this area, because they come up here only once or twice, and they're probably doing road construction when they come up here. It's just this weird thing. But it is nice that the state of Iowa actually takes care of their roads. It's very different than other states. It's one of those things you don't really think about it. When you're driving somewhere that, you have to worry about fuel prices, you have to worry about stops, you might have to worry about, eventually when you get out this direction, you have to worry about mountain ranges. Maybe your car can't even do that, especially if it's in winter. They shut down some of the roads, like you can't even drive on them. You might have to go well out of your way just to get somewhere that you need to travel, because if the roads are shut down or there's a blizzard or something. It's just weird to think about when you start the traveling process. The plan, the time of year, typically what gas prices will do during that time of year. You have to really kind of plan out your trips, especially now that it's really hard to get airline tickets. Airlines are kind of shutting down right left and center because of the pandemic. So, all right, let's do one more, and then we'll call it a day from here. So that way, I'll give you some time to work on your assignment. Let's do today. You have page 211. That was the one I gave you the other day. That was the one on the map in the textbook. Had I think 13 questions, and it was just this kind of generic map. If you haven't finished it, it's due today. So, all right, let's do one more. Let's do kind of a weird one. I'll let you guys kind of pick. Pick any town you want.
Fort Wayne, San Diego,
Fort Wayne, Indiana. I heard that. And what was the other one?
San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, let's do that. That's good. That's good distance. San Diego, way over here. San Diego. Okay. Okay. So Fort Wayne, Indiana, all the way to San Diego. That's a pretty long distance. So now we're gonna have to do some real good measurements here. Let's see what you guys can come up with.
14.6.
14.6? Sounds about right to me. It's a pretty long distance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that. 14.6, so you're gonna cross multiply and divide. Cross multiply and divide. And it's gonna be a long distance. We're gonna be well over 1,000, not quite to 2,000, because 2,000 would probably be about 19 centimeters, 15 centimeters. We're gonna be close. I'm gonna expect the upper thousands.
1,844, 2021.
Say it again?
1,844.21.
0.21 miles. Yeah. How I kind of ballparked it in my head, I said we're going to be in the upper thousands. Well, if you just look, it was 19 centimeters to get to 2,400 miles. We weren't quite to 19. We were close. I mean, we weren't there yet. So I was figuring it was the upper thousands, possibly maybe 2,000 miles. The distance all the way across the US is 2,400 miles. That was actually the numbers I used. It was the distance all the way across. All I had to do real quick was just kind of measure the distance straight across the US. So that was how I quickly did it before you guys started today. But yeah, so kind of longer distances. Now, obviously, if you're traveling that, you have to worry about roads. You're not just, this is a flight path that you're taking. Tomorrow, we're gonna look at completely new problems with this. Same map, we're gonna look at a completely different style of problem. But also, tomorrow is the first time we're gonna look at, you need your Chromebook tomorrow. We're gonna look at what Google would say versus what this math says, and we're gonna try to make sense of it tomorrow. Why is Google giving me a completely different answer? And it's not because of driving distance. We're gonna look at air flight distances, and Google says something different. So we're gonna look at that tomorrow, okay? For today, you can work on your page 211, that's the 1 through 13. That was the one that I handed out, I think, Tuesday this week.
Yes.
Make sure you are working on that, it's due today. That'll be the first assignment on second quarter. So if you haven't turned in some stuff today, remember today's the last day to turn in late work and all that good stuff. If you've already turned in stuff, I'll get stuff graded for you today. So, question?
Which one is on that paper too?
Okay, good enough, good enough. I'll have to go check that, so. Okay, that's it for today.